Today, we're going to talk about one of the most important things when it comes to making your footage look and feel real cinematic. We're going to talk about sound design. You guys have been asking me for a video like this for a really long time, so I thought we should do a breakdown of the video that I shot together with Oskar recently, and if you haven't seen that, I'm going to roll it right now. So that sequence is heavily relying on these sound effects to make it feel just as immersive as it is. And the sound design is something that I think many people are either skipping away and don't do, or they just like overdo it. They do too loud swooshes or cut the sound straight off, and they don't like make this nice transition to make it feel this immersive, like, yeah, I don't know what to say, but like, many people tend to overdo it or not do it at all. I'm going to show you how I do it and how I did it in that sequence that you just saw. But before we get to that, I'm just going to say a huge thank you to everyone that has subscribed recently, because you guys rock. And if this is your first time watching me, then, you know, you might want to consider hitting that subscribe button, because that'd be appreciated. Let's get back to the video. Perfecto. So when we shot this sequence, most of the shots were actually kind of planned out to be able to get the flow that we went for in this whole sequence and try to make a lot of the transition feel kind of seamless. But when I get to the editing process, usually the first thing that I do is that I find a piece of music that I want to edit to. And when I've added the music and cut everything to the music, the first thing that I do is that I try to find a good ambience to the whole sequence. And in this case, I used something that is called a room tone that is in the like stock library of Final Cut Pro, and that basically gives us this humming sound to the whole sequence, and it's staying like in the background, and you don't want to keep it too loud because you want to make sure that it's there, but you don't want it to be obvious. And what I did then is that I basically worked step by step from the start. So for example, when Oskar is walking towards the stereo, I wanted to feel like something is happening. So that is when I added in the footsteps here. And then we got the room tone in the bottom. Then as he starts to turn, like the, we can say knob, I wanted to have like the radio tuning to it. So I tried to find a sound that sounded like a radio tuning, and then I added in this. And I also added the vintage radio effect to this, because if I remove that, it sounds like this. It sounds way better when you have that like vintage radio. It just sounds so good. So at the end of this clip, you can see that Oskar is grabbing the leather apron that he's going to use. What I did there is that I tried to find something that sounded like a piece of cloth or a piece of leather or something. You can hear that, just that makes it sound way more immersive. As we have this like seamless transition right here, I also wanted to have a swoosh, you know, like one of the... So I added in the short sub that I had in the anticipation pack from Lens Distortion. And then you don't want everything to be too loud, but you want it to be like a good volume, and you want everything to fade in and out. So as we move forward here, you can see that it has this metal sheet, and when he has that, I wanted to have a sound that sounded like he actually picked it up really fast, and I hide it under the effect when he's grabbing the apron. So if we just play that back, you can hear that it sounds like he's picking up a piece of metal at the same time as he's taking the apron. So when you play that back with the cloth picked up and the whoosh, it sounds like this. It feels way more alive because something is going on when the transition is happening. And then as he puts the metal plate down, I wanted it to have an impact, you know? I wanted it to feel that I actually put it down. And since this is timed to the music as well, it's gonna be like way more impactful when I add a hit. And then I also added a metal hit to that to make it feel like, it's hard. So when you play that, it sounds like you actually put a piece of metal down. As we move forward to when he grabs the acetylene burner, I added a small swoosh. All of these swooshes and hits and all that is from the anticipation pack that I bought on Lens Distortions. And I also added this gas sound that sounds like the gas is starting slowly to like shh. At the last like gas sound here, I tried to increase the volume to make it louder so that it feels like the whole like gas leak that is going on from the acetylene burner is getting louder as he's moving closer to actually igniting it. And if we listen to it, you can also hear that it fades out. As the fade out comes, I have added in a fireplace igniter. You know, when you light up one of these gas fireplaces, it's like, you can hear it right here. Also, when you light an acetylene torch, it's also like a small bang. So then I added in that as well. Plus, also added in 3 different hits to that to make it more impactful. So if we play that back with all the hits added, you can hear it like this. And to get that rise, I basically just took a regular hit, for example here, Stadium Light B, and then I just played that in reverse, and then it sounds like that. So when all the effects is added to that small sequence, it's like kind of good, kind of impactful, right? And then as the acetylene burner is burning, I wanted to have a burning sound, right? Like, and then I also added in the acetylene torch effect. So you can have both like going in the background. Then when the hammer comes, I added in a slow motion bam. Like, I don't know what it's called, but a slow motion like whoosh that is going on to when the hammer actually is moving in slow-mo. But I also added in a metal sound. So it sounds like it actually picks something up from the metal. Then I added in a sound of a metal weight. So if you play that back with both of them, it actually sounds really good. When he hits the anvil, I added a anvil hit strike, but I also added in a like regular hit from the anticipation pack, and also a hammer hit like at the bottom. So we got 3 different hits when he actually hits the hammer. Play that sequence back. Before this scene is started, you can see that the angle grinder starts to, just before we change the scene, the sound effect starts, and that is to make it more alive. You know, it prepares the brain for the transition before you actually see it. Works well. And as we got this like swoosh transition, again, I added in the short sub. And again, before we get to the sequence of Oskar actually welding, I started the sound effects of the welding machine, as you can hear right here. It's going in the background. It prepares us that something is gonna go down, you know, something is gonna happen. And then we have this swoosh. Like, I wanted to have an effect when he like locks down his welding helmet. So I found this cool effect in the Final Cut Pro library. It sounds really weird. It's basically an airlock door from a spaceship, I think. But it sounds cool. So I added that in, and then I added the short sub, the welding machine, and I also added in a short, like, how do you say, dry swoosh as well. So when you play that back, sounds like that. And I also added in a hit just when the welding machine starts, like that. Again, we got a swoosh. I got the short sub from the anticipation pack. Whoosh. And then I wanted to have the footsteps going when Oskar is walking and hanging up the heart on the door. So then I added that in. And as he hangs it up on the hook, I also added in this like small sound. And to make everything feel like everything makes a sound in the sequence. And as the sequence ends, I fade out the ambience, and then I fade in the hits, and then it's over. So if we play this back with all the sounds added and the music as well, it's gonna look like this. Oh! Okay, I really hope that you learned something from this video and you found it useful, because sound design is something that I really recommend you to pay some really good attention to, because if done right, it's gonna take your videos to another level. It's gonna make them both look and feel way more professional. So I highly recommend you to spend a lot of time finding the right sound effect. Personally, I get most of my sound effects from epidemicsound.com, which is really good. I'm gonna post a link down below. And I also use the built-in sound effects library that is in Final Cut Pro, because it's also really good. But those are basically the places that I find everything for my videos. And if I can find any sound that I think matches the video that I got, then I basically only record it by myself. I would love to know what you thought about this video as well, so please do drop a comment below. If you liked it, do give it a thumbs up, because it does help a lot. And if you haven't subscribed, that'd be really appreciated as well. So thanks so much for that. And until next time, take care, Anna. You know what? I was planning on doing a video on keyframing in Final Cut Pro, and I had this Zippo lighter that I find at home, and I was thinking like, oh, I can do something cool with this. But then I realized I can't do any cool things with a Zippo except for... Ta-da! That's basically it. Oh well. Probably have to do... Let's shut off the screen recording. Stop screen recording. Here we go. File set. Bye.